Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley, and today I have with me
Jacob Hatcher.
Jacob, special guest today. Jace unfortunately could not be here, so another great friend of mine. So you're filling in for him. So let's jump straight into it, all right? The Chiefs back to back.
Yeah.
How are you feeling with this one?
I feel like they kind of got a little lucky with some things that went on in the playoff run, but it was another special playoff run with being the 3 seed and overcoming the 2-1 seed, and then the 49ers that everybody thought was a super team. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. And, everybody thought it was an off year, me included. But they picked it up in the playoffs. I thought their four best games were their 4 playoff games. You're our first Chiefs fan on a normal video. Of course, all my interviews are all Chiefs fans. But so, of course, Jace is a Seahawks fan. I'm yet to reveal who I am because I don't want to lose viewers. So, so now we have an actual perspective of a Missouri fan. So welcome on. So let's jump into the Super Bowl. We'll start with the pregame and the national anthem performed by Reba. There was an over-under of 1.5 minutes, and it went, I believe, 1:37.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw people on TikTok, they were making they did a whole list of amount of times, over, under, between, I forgot when, but until last year, and they made a statistical bet on that she would be under. I saw that on TikTok the other day, and I'm like, it's not that deep.
Yeah, so I think some people lost money on that. Jace actually betted 1.5 minutes under, so he lost. But so the halftime show presented by Usher, it was okay. It was one of the better ones that we've had for a little bit, but it still wasn't amazing.
It wasn't great. I felt like watching it was actually pretty entertaining. He brought a bunch of different outfits and took his shirt off. Which, it was all right. I think personally one of the better ones in the past probably 5 years. I didn't really like Rihanna's as much, but I felt like his was okay.
And it just ends up being the genre that you like. So, of course, neither of us really like Rihanna, so we didn't enjoy it. We probably dabble a very slight bit on Usher, so that was okay to us. The Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick, that one was probably your favorite. That was I like that one too because, we both listen to rap, so, it just ends up being what you like, really.
I guess some people definitely thought that Rihanna had the best show because that's just the kind of music that they like. So, yeah.
So the commercials, though, I think that was the worst year of Super Bowl commercials that we may have ever had.
Yeah, none really caught my eye. I just didn't really watch them after the first couple rolls of them. I just stopped watching them just because they weren't funny. They weren't that great to me.
Yeah, I'd say the best one of the night was the State Farm with Arnold and Dane DeVito. Other than that, I know a lot of people like the Dunkin' Donuts one. I did not like the Dunkin' Donuts one.
I think it's just the people that were there, the faces that they recognize. That's the only reason people actually care for any of those.
It was just who can get the biggest celebrity this year, and they called it good. So, besides that, the game itself, that's probably one of the best Super Bowls that we've had for a while.
Yeah, it was definitely a nail-biter, especially going to OT, the second OT Super Bowl ever. I thought it was a great game, and it could have been tossed up either way.
And I saw something in the last 2 Super Bowls that were on CBS were both blowouts. It was the Buccaneers and Chiefs before this,
right.
And I can't put my finger on what the game before that was, but it was also not close at all. So there were some people that were nervous, this is going to be a blowout. One of the teams are going to destroy the other team, and that's just the CBS thing. But this was the exact opposite of a blowout.
Yeah, I'm glad because I wouldn't have cared to watch a Super Bowl of the Chiefs dominating or the 49ers dominating. That's just not a fun game to watch, and it almost brings the season to a disappointing end.
Yeah, and the closest game that you want to see every year, of course, should be the Super Bowl because that's the 2 best teams in the league playing each other.
Exactly.
So the first quarter, the 49ers started off a little hot, and then they had that CMC fumble. The Chiefs really sputtered in the first quarter.
Yeah, the offense didn't do much. I don't think they had a first down within that first or even early second quarter. I think their first actual drive came in at the end of the second quarter, besides that Pacheco fumble, which was kind of unfortunate after that huge McCole Hardman play. I think the defense came up big in the first half, holding them to only 10 points.
Yeah, so Romo actually brought up a stat in the middle of the second quarter. He said no team has ever won the Super Bowl when being shut out in the first half. And the Chiefs, of course, got their three. So
I heard that whenever he said that. I'm like, they better score three than here.
Yeah. And, of course, it came very late. But something that I want to bring up, speaking of field goals, the field goal record for the Super Bowl was broken twice in this game. Moody had a 55 to start off the game, first points, and then Bucker followed that with a 57. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought,
you wouldn't, like, nowadays you think of those kicks as, like, automatics. Like, you wouldn't have seen that as the record. And I think those were 3 of the only 10 field goals past 50 yards in Super Bowl history ever, which really surprised me. I didn't know that until yesterday.
Yeah, so that was an interesting stat for it. So second half rolls along after our amazing nearly 40-minute halftime, and the Chiefs kind of clicked a little bit. The third quarter was a little slow, but going into the fourth quarter, they really showed that they're in it to win it.
Yeah, that first Chiefs drive had me worried. Mahomes threw a duck. I mean, I thought, no way. Special teams absolutely came up huge. I mean, that muff punt that hit the player's heel, that I don't remember who fumbled it, and we got possession there. That ended in a Chiefs touchdown, complete change of game, and then the blocked PAT, of course, came up huge. I think I saw that it actually, if he had just gotten a better kick on it, it wouldn't have been blocked because it was super low, too.
Yeah, so obviously he had to change that up when going up 19-16 late in the game, and then obviously Bucker and the Chiefs respond 19-19. We go to overtime. All right, there's some controversy here. New rules. They're saying that some of the 49ers players did not know the new rules. So I find that really stupid. If you're going to be in the league, you should probably figure out that there's new rules. Now, obviously, they didn't want to go to overtime, but
yeah, I thought that was a coaching issue, but at the same time, your players have to take the initiative to know the rules and know how they have to play certain situations. And overtime is 100% a possibility in the playoffs, so like they have to know that rule.
And the Chiefs were well aware of this. There was an interview after the game. I can't remember who they were talking to, but the player said that this was going back to training camp. This was something that they had in their minds, and they wanted the opponent to have the ball first, and then they had their eyes set on scoring a touchdown and going for 2 no matter what, and just ending it.
Just ending the game.
That's ballsy, especially talking about it not even before the season starts. You're in training camp and you're saying, okay, while we're in the Super Bowl, we're going to go for 2 on the second drive if the other team scores a touchdown. So I think that's really funny, and I think that's just taking initiative right away. So props to the Chiefs for that.
I think Andy Reid just made sure his players were prepared because they kind of thought it was automatic to make the playoffs because that's how it's been with Patrick Mahomes. This year almost came close with the Raiders, but they ended up making the playoffs, and being that prepared actually ended up helping them win the Super Bowl.
Right. And even though it took a while for the Chiefs to clinch, I don't think the Raiders even really ever stood a chance. They're coming from behind, they're scratching and clawing and just staying to where they weren't eliminated until, they lost the game.
They had to pray the 5-12 Chargers beat the Chiefs in week 18. Yeah. I really don't think that was ever a possibility.
So let's jump into stats from the Super Bowl. I know we got a little off track there. So Brock Purdy, he threw 23 for 28, 255 yards and a touchdown. And Juwan Jennings also had that touchdown, of course, that I mentioned. I think even though Brock Purdy got a little cold in the second quarter, I think he had a really good game. So I know a lot of people call him a game manager, you included. I don't think he's a game manager. I think Purdy's good. Now, if somebody asked me, Cameron, is Brock Purdy top 10? No, he is not top 10. But he is starting echelon. He's definitely top 20. I'd take that to the bank right now. I think he's even top 15.
Honestly, in the Super Bowl, seeing him deal against, in my opinion, the number one defense in the league, he did amazing. He threw it to Juwan Jennings, who is a wide receiver 3 at best. He threw it to Chris Conley, got the ball to him, and he played great.
I didn't even know who Chris Conley was, and I know, like,
wide receiver.
Freshman year, I knew like every single player in the league, and like everybody would come up to me and they'd be like, Cameron, what's the Jaguars' right tackle? And I could answer that. And I kind of slacked off this year, but I didn't know who Chris Conley was, and he started catching some passes here and there, and I was like, okay, who's this guy?
Yeah. He did play for the Chiefs to start his career, and he played really good. I mean, receiving, he was all right, but especially on special teams. You saw on those punts, he just flew down the field and he just took off his head. It was impressive to see. And then back to Brock Purdy. I mean, he has CMC and George Kittle. I think that's why people, myself included, call him a game manager. But just seeing him get it in tight windows to like some lower tier wide receivers just might change my mind.
And I think the funny thing, though, was that in this game, George Kittle and Deebo Samuel had 37 yards combined. 5 receptions and 37 combined. Deebo had 3 for 33, and George Kittle had 2 receptions for 4. And CMC, 8 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. So, and of course that touchdown
30
came from
of those coming from that trick play.
Yeah, of course the touchdown coming from Jennings.
Yeah.
For rushing, CMC 80 yards, and there was just about nothing else on the ground. I think Mitchell had like 9 yards or something. So Purdy had just about the same. So there wasn't really a whole lot besides CMC on the ground for that game, and they started off hot. I mean, they were just running it down the Chiefs' throat on the first drive. Then CMC coughed the football, and then it was just kind of quiet after that.
Yeah. I mean, that was great to see. I feel like someone that goes underrated on the Chiefs team is Mike Pennell. You don't really hear his name at all. He was a backup the entire season behind Derek Nottie, but once he got injured, he came in, and he stopped those big runs. I mean, 80 yards to the number 1 rusher in the league, that's impressive for a team to hold down.
Yeah. So for the defense for the Niners, Fred Warner, 13 tackles. Jair Brown had 11, and of course that one Mahomes interception. Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and Chase Young all had a sack in that game. Those were the 3 of the game. So the 49ers had a really good defense in this game. And, of course, we all knew that. That was a top 5 defense this year. And, unfortunately, the final drive is what everybody will be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, those front 4 played amazing. There was pressure in Mahomes' face almost every play. I mean, Nick Bosa, Chase Young. Chase Young played surprisingly great. I saw clips of him earlier this season not giving the greatest effort. So that's why I was like, oh, it's fine. It's Chase Young. He's not going to go full. But he actually went all out this time, and he played pretty solid.
I think it was the call-out that did so because, of course, they're all talking about benching Chase Young. And then, the first quarter, that may be one of the best first quarters that he's ever had of his career.
Yeah.
I think the sack came early as well.
Yeah.
So, good job, Chase Young. So for the Chiefs stats now, Patrick Mahomes, 34 for 46, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Mahomes, of course, it was a rough start. It was a rough start for the whole entire offense.
Yeah.
But he really picked it up, obviously. And, of course, the final drives of the game, the touchdowns that he threw were crucial. And altogether, I don't exactly know if that's the best Super Bowl MVP we've ever had, but,
I just don't know who they could have given it to be honest.
I agree.
Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Mahomes just kind of gets an MVP because he's the guy.
Because no one else, stood out, I guess.
So Pacheco on the ground, 59 yards and a fumble. Mahomes also had 66 yards on the ground, though. Mahomes was the leading rusher, and he had, what was that? What did I say? 399 total. So almost 400. So you can definitely make an argument for him being an MVP. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not.
And then I did see that he broke a record for all-time Super Bowl rushing yards for a quarterback total. I think only 140 something, but apparently there aren't many other quarterbacks that run it in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, Tom just doesn't do that.
Yeah. He's the only one to make it consistently in the past. I mean, Big Ben, but he's a tree.
Yeah, he doesn't run either. Peyton made a few. He doesn't run. Eli doesn't run. So receiving, Travis Kelce, 9 receptions for 93 yards. Of course, a very rough start for him. Rashee Rice had 6 receptions. Mecole Hardman, the game-winning touchdown. And MVS, of course, with that touchdown earlier in the game as well.
Yeah, I got scared first because Travis Kelce, the entire first half, 1 reception, 1 yard, and that came on the screen. That kind of worried me on how that was going to play out. Rashee Rice, this has been a great rookie season for him. He developed as the season went on. He wasn't trusted at the beginning, but as the season went on, he definitely built more chemistry with Mahomes and definitely got better as the playoffs grew.
I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver next year.
I agree. I saw him. He was open on that last play of regulation, besides the field goal, of course. But, he went over to the sidelines, and he was like, "What the hell, Mahomes? I was wide open." He actually got in his face, made sure to tell him. He wasn't, scared to say anything.
Probably wasn't shoving his old man, though. That was rough, honestly.
Yeah.
I think there's some people that are trying to defend that, but,
I think it was more I don't know. Some people just think that they're blowing it out of proportion. He did, it was too aggressive, but, it was more like that. Come on, get it together. You need to be out there.
It was a heat of the moment thing.
Yeah.
But Travis is just like that,
Yeah.
He's cool off the field, and then you get him on the field, and he's almost a little comparable to DK Metcalf besides, having to punch somebody every single play.
Except he's throwing the referee's flag back in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Kelce can be a little bit of a hothead when he's on the field.
Yeah, he needs to calm down sometimes. He's almost thrown a couple games by just not being able to come out on the field.
Kelsey's a good player, of course. And Andy Reid and Travis both announced that they're coming back. They want a 3-peat.
Yeah, that's great to hear as a Chiefs fan. I'd love to see them back. I'd love to see a 3-peat. Honestly, don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it, but...
Have we even had a 3-peat in history?
No, they'd be the first.
So let's move on now. We got a little sidetracked onto the defensive stats for the Chiefs. Bolton, 13 tackles in a TFL. Reed and Karlaftis, of course, I said that half sack. And Leo Chanel, is Chanel, right?
I think it's, Chanel.
Mike Pennell, and Felix Anadike-Uzama.
And Dyke.
All 3 of those had a TFL.
Yeah.
The defense played really good, and I know you said earlier in the video that you thought that they're the number 1 defense this year. I don't know if they're exactly number 1. I thought it was the Ravens. I definitely would have tabbed the Chiefs as a top 5 this year, though.
Yeah, I think the playoff run definitely secured them as number 1 in my mind. I think what I saw a statistic. It was they held the number 2, 3, 4, and 6 offense, all to an average of 15.8 points per game, which is just insane and unheard of. They played great in the playoffs, Super Bowl especially, holding CMC under 100. It was just impressive. And it's not like they have any big names either. They just have, besides Chris Jones, they just played together. Amazing.
So Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed are free agents. I think they're going to have to choose one. Who is it going to be?
I'd rather them get Chris Jones back. The amount of pressures, the amount of bad passes he forced to Brock Purdy that could have ended the game for him is just way more crucial than a corner because we have depth at corner.
I think that they'll bring back L'Jarius Sneed, and I think it'll be more of an age and cap hit thing because Chris Jones is getting there, and he's gonna want about $30 million as a defensive tackle, and that would be the highest paid ever, correct?
Yeah, that would be.
So that's risky. That's for sure.
Especially at his age, yeah.
Yeah, and L'Jarius is very young. He's been in the league for 4 years, correct? Yeah, because he's going into contract year, of course. Yeah. So he's probably around 26, 25. So, he played really good this year. He's going to cost a lot less. He's probably going to be around 10 to 15. That's a lot different than 30. And there's going to be a lot of nose tackles and defensive tackles in the draft and probably in free agency as well. Now, of course, they're not Chris Jones. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because then you can sign the other dudes that are still available. I know Willie Gay said goodbye on Twitter before the playoffs were even over. He may be gone. That could have also just been, a little bit of a leverage thing. Yeah. So Willie Gay's a free agent. Drew Tranquill's a free agent. I know there's a few dudes on the offense like Nick Algoretti. Jerick McKinnon, I think, would probably be a good person to bring back for, $1 million. And
I think a must re-sign player is 100% Drew Tranquill. He was amazing in the playoffs. He played out of his mind he got re-signed 1 year, and he wasn't expected that much, but he played way better than those expectations.
And he played really good with the Chargers, too. He just wasn't really talked about because he was sitting under Kenneth Murray a little bit. Yeah. So then he moved on to the Chiefs, and he balled out, even though he wasn't, the number one dude. But, he was very pivotal for Kansas City this year. And I think, if they're going to bring a dude back for $5, $6, $7 million, that's Drew Tranquill. So
I think next year is going to be scary. We have to re-sign Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, all of those guys, and they're going to want some paychecks.
Yeah, that was a really good draft class. That was the 2020 class, right? Yep. So let's go way too early divisional picks. All right, let's start with the AFC East. Who you got?
I have the Bills winning it, but I have the Jets being close behind, maybe even a wild card team.
I'm going Bills as well. All right, AFC North.
I'm going to go Ravens. That defense is solid.
I'm going to go the Bengals. I think they'll have a bounce back. I think Joe's going to have a deep playoff run. All right, AFC South.
Texans got it.
I'm going Texans as well. The Jaguars will probably put up a challenge. I think they'll be better than this year, but I'm going to go with the Texans again as well. AFC West, we both know that we're choosing the Chiefs. NFC South, I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I think with Raheem Morris, they need to sign or draft a quarterback. That's obvious. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, that offense. Bijan Robinson, how could I even pass him up for even 2 seconds? I think that offense, if it's ran correctly, it's going to be really good. So I'm going the Falcons with the NFC South.
I actually have the Saints. I think Derek Carr's experience with Michael Thomas, if he's not getting hurt. And then on defense, they have Tyrann Mathieu. That leadership on defense can bring a defense together. So I think if they just have the right leaders in Tyrann and Derek, I think they can make a playoff run.
Okay, how about the NFC North?
I think I have Green Bay taking this. Jordan Love has played out of his mind his first year starting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Green Bay is going to take that over the Lions.
I think Green Bay is definitely building, but they're still really young. They're the youngest team in the league this year, correct? Yep. I think will probably need 3 or 4 more years before they're dominating. Right. And they got to re-sign their dudes as well. I know Jordan's not playing for a crazy amount of money right now. He's going to want his bag. Yeah.
Aaron Jones soon.
Yeah, Jones is getting a little old. He didn't have the greatest year this year, but he did deal with injuries. But
He was on my fantasy team.
I'm going to take the Lions here. I'm going to go safe bet. I think that they're really building something there, and Dan Campbell's,
Amon-Ra has turned into a special wide receiver.
Yeah, NFC West. We both have the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's skip by that. All right. NFC East. It's been about 20 years since we've had a repeat winner.
I think the Cowboys are going to win it.
I'm going to take the Eagles. I think the streak will stay alive. I think even though we've had some drama with Sirianni this year, he literally just got them to the Super Bowl the year before. And Jalen Hurts had a really down year. I think they'll bounce back.
That end was just too much for me to say the Eagles here. Going 10-1 and then 11-6 and then losing wild card to the Bucks, who made it in by a nail. I mean, I can't really take them.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll end it off here. Our Super Bowl winners. Way too early. You start off here. Who do you have?
I have the Bills. I want the Chiefs to win, but they have a great defense. Terrell Bernard developing this year and then becoming an amazing player, along with Milano and Diggs. If he gets re-signed, or not re-signed, but keeps drama out of the locker room, I think they're going to be able to win it.
All right. Give me a drum roll. I'm taking an AFC team as well. You have any guesses here?
I'm going to say Bengals or Chiefs.
I'm going with the Bengals. I think they'll really have a bounce back year, and they don't have crazy notable free agents this year.
I'd like to see where T. Higgins goes.
I agree. T. Higgins is the guy that's probably going to be leaving. It's a pretty good draft class with wide receivers. So if they do lose T, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem because he didn't even really play spectacular this year.
Yeah, he was injured for some of it. And
I feel like we could see T. Higgins in Kansas City.
I would love to see that. But the problem with that is I don't think he fits our scheme as much. I think we need faster players, not those go up and get it. Because we have Justin Ross. He's 6'5". He can get it done in the air. We just don't play him.
All right, so that's our video, Jacob. Thank you for very last-minute notice, an hour notice.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming out and doing this today. So I'll see y'all next time. This is Missouri Sports Talk.